Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Richard Lowe. He is a professional ghostwriter and author, and his passion is to help individuals and businesses write books that showcase their expertise, build credibility, and tell their story. Welcome to the show, Richard.
Well, thank you for having me come on. That was a great introduction.
You are welcome to the show, Richard. You are welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we'll be talking right now. We'll be talking about how to sell copies of your book, how one can write a book and then sell copies of that book. So, my first question is to you, Richard, is to understand nowadays a lot of people are writing books, self published books, whatever way they are getting things published. And one of the things, I don't remember a few days back, I read it or someone told me, even my experience is that, someone was telling that somebody offers a book to you nowadays and you don't want that book. Even to me, sometimes, people offer their books. Only few books I say yes to, because a lot of books will just pile on. And I'm not that those books are bad or good, but somehow I'm not sure about if I really want to go through that. So I want to understand in this backdrop with so many books, self-written books, people helping people to write books, and this whole market is such that a lot of people now don't want to get those books in their hands, and that is where the topic is: how do they get to selling that books? But I want to understand, how is this perception at the moment? How do you see it as someone who is very much deep into this particular industry, if I may use the word?
Well, to answer your question directly, there's always been a lot of books published. When you go into a bookstore, the walls are covered with books and things. And the question is, how do you stand out? Now you got the virtual bookstore, you got Amazon, and you got other sites, Barnes and Noble and so forth. Well, you got to have a good title, a good cover. If your title is bad, your book's not going to sell. If your cover is bad, it's not going to sell. And your cover needs to use copywriting techniques so that it jumps out at you and basically says, buy me. I have the answer to your problem. And you have to target a problem that somebody's having. We're talking nonfiction here. Fiction here, you obviously target that market a little differently. But you have to resonate with the person. There's just so many books now. Like you said, why would you pick one up? Well, you know the person, some famous royalty from England or something, that person, you're curious, or some famous person, or you are interested in the subject because the title jumped out at you or the cover jumped out at you. If your book's not selling, as a matter of fact, the first two things you look at is, are you promoting it correctly? And is the cover any good? Those are the first two things you look at. If you're not promoting it, nobody's going to see your book page. And if your title's bad, or title and book cover are bad, nobody's going to buy your book. So you got to look at those two things, and everything else is secondary.
Right, Richard. So in this situation, when there are so many books available at this point, how do you explain what is so great about writing one's own book? Help us understand this. Why this craze to write your own book?
Well, one reason is the legacy. It's something that moves on past your life, and people outside your sphere and people all over the world can read it and learn about you, or read your fiction, or do whatever. So you're kind of expanding yourself through the whole planet. Like I can read a book from India or from some other country in the United States, and and learn about somebody who's doing something that's important. I'd probably pick up a book about how the Taj Mahal happened, and that's a place that I've always wanted to go, never got there. And well, why was it built? And the book might catch my attention on that. The second reason is more close to home. What I tend to write for is people who want to build a name for themselves, their credibility. So they're at a certain level in their job, for example, and they haven't been able to get promoted, and they're kind of thinking, maybe I want to go outside and start my own business. So the way to do that is to write a book. And one way to do that is to write a book and then publish the book and get it out there, and then use it to get speaking engagements, to get the press to notice you, to get venture capital, things like that. So the book becomes a tool to get you out there. That's the kind of book that I generally write, although I have written fiction and other kinds of books as well.
Right, right. And who is, how do they get to writing this book? Now, one is an expert who knows about things and they get down to writing their book, or they just take some help here and there. But now, as a professional ghostwriter, I want to understand, a lot of people get a ghostwriter to write. How does this ghostwriter get down to that job? Do they fully imagine the book? Do they just are almost like a biographer that they do write that book in terms of the expertise of that person? Why I want and what I want to understand is that how do I know that the book that is on display or on online is something that has been originally written by the person whose name is as the writer or the author? Many a times it could be the name only and the book has actually been written by someone who is, and it happens in a lot of industries. Even in newspapers you see people write authored articles, only some are correct, some are not written by these experts, but they come out to be thought leaders. People think it is written by them, and but when you read them you can also understand who has written them if you are smart enough, if you can read between the lines. So I want to understand, how do you maintain that authenticity in terms of that it reflects to the reader, potential reader as well?
Well, what I do and what most ghostwriters do is they interview the person a lot. Now I interview them a lot. We go through everything they want to do, everything the book's about, what they want to accomplish, who they are. We do several kinds of analysis tools to determine their personality, because I want to write the book as if I were them, because I want to write their book, not my book, because I'm writing a book from their voice, from their personality to the world. So I have to write like I'm them. So through the book process, we do that analysis first, and the lots and lots of interviews, and then I write the book, and we go back and forth until, okay, I wrote this chapter, and then they look at it and say, yeah, it's not me, and we write it over and over and over again until it is. After the first chapter, I'm pretty well honed in, and it becomes pretty easy after that because I'm writing as if I were them. So that's the key point, is I have to pretend like an actor pretends like they're somebody else. I'm doing the same thing. I'm pretending like I'm that person, and then I start writing like I was them, and that's a really rare talent. And ghostwriters who can pull it off, you can't tell that a ghostwriter wrote it. Ghostwriters who don't pull it off, you can read it and you can tell it was written by somebody else.
Right, Richard. So I want to understand, you see, when you write a book yourself, you bring that full expertise, you bring out that passion for what we are writing. How does a ghostwriter treat that book? Isn't it more about doing a job? Then you might get into the shoes of your client, if I may use that word.
Yep.
But what about the passion? What about that intense expertise that one is trying to write? It's a very difficult job, but more important thing is about the truthfulness to the passion and emotions with which one writes a book, himself or herself.
Well, that's the trouble with writing any book, and a ghostwriter is magnified 100 times, is putting the passion in the book, because anybody can write words on paper or digital words, but getting the passion into there is a whole matter of understanding how words work and how language can be used to generate that passion. And it really is in pulling your reader in and engulfing them in the world that you want them to do, whether it's a coaching world or whether it's a book about a wrestler or a book about something else. You want to get the passion. Like if I was writing a book about a baseball star that saved his life, I would want to understand the passion that he or she's feeling, and then put in the actual words that explain that, like all the senses, like it smelled this way, it tasted this way, and so forth, so that you feel and you understand where that baseball star, when he was young, say before he became a baseball star, the drive that drove him to become that. Why did he become a baseball star? Well, something drove him to that. It could be his father did something, or it could be he met a star, or it could be anything. And I want to get that let's say he met some other baseball star, want to get that feeling in there that he felt when that star came up and maybe signed his baseball. And wow, I want to become this. Got to get that into the writing. And it is not an easy job. It's not easy at all. But that's what I get paid for, and that's what I do.
Right, right, Richard. So you have helped now. You have helped somebody. You have written a book for them. They have got that book in their hands, or maybe the online software copy, whatever it is. Now, what do they do with that book? How do they go about telling the world, or even for to the world to buy a copy of that book? Perhaps so many will not want to get it. How do they? Maybe even their wives or husbands will not want to read it. But how do they go around selling that book? Indeed, it's a tough thing on the ground. I'm just trying to understand it from you.
Well, part one is writing the book, and part two is selling the book, and they're two different things. The first thing I do in a ghostwriting project is, when the book started, the author, he's the author, I'm the writer. So that's the terminology. So the author and I work together to do little posts on their social media about the journey of writing, not about the book, but about the journey of writing. Oh, I discovered this about myself as writing this book, or I remember this time period, or and I usually show up as the book coach, or my book coach helped me get through this writer's block part thing, and so forth. So they're writing about the journey as they go. People then on their social media see this and they become enamored with the person, and they start to follow it as if it was they start to follow those stories, so that you're building up buzz, or people who are following you as you write the book, because it usually takes 8 months to a year to write a good book. So might as well use that 8 months to a year to start promoting your book. By the time your book is ready to publish, you have a book launch party. You invite on Zoom, maybe a virtual book launch party, maybe invite 500 or 1,000 people if you can, and probably 100 will show up. And you may even have a physical book launch party where you have maybe it catered and people come in and they buy copies of your book. And then you have a bunch of tailored things to promote your book. You might go on a book tour to various places and give speeches. You might do a blog tour where you have blog posts on 100 different blogs. You might, all kinds of ways to promote your book. But the key is you start that early, well before the book's written, because why wait? If you wait till the book's published, you've already lost the momentum. You want to gain that momentum early. There's also an Amazon reason why. Amazon looks at that first 2 weeks in their algorithm, and that they determine who the audience of the book is. So you want as many people to buy that book as possible within the first 2 weeks. That's the important thing. Then Amazon will go, oh, okay, technical people are buying this book, so I'll promote it to technical people, because it knows everything. And and that's basically the secret, is you have to promote the book. Of course, you can hire people to do that. A lot of the big name authors do that. They hire public relations agencies to get on the talk shows and stuff. Most people don't have those kind of resources, so you get on podcasts. Podcasts are a great way to promote your book. You send out mailings, and you go to your library and try and get it in there, and go to the bookstore and talk to them about it, and do a talk at your bookstore. All these different things will help you sell your book. And if your sister or your mother won't buy a copy, at least to get you off their back, then you've got a problem.
Indeed. But what is your secret to getting your clients? You have written and published 63 books on a variety of subjects, including 2 Kindle bestsellers, ghostwritten 48 plus books,
Yeah.
authored over 1,000 articles for blogs and social media. I mean, where do you get all this inspiration from? And especially, where do you get these big ticket clients from? How do they know about you, Richard?
Well, first of all, I used to be in the technical industry, so I have 33 years there and have contacts and things from there, and knowledge. And I build up my audience on LinkedIn. And you can use whatever social media you want. If you were writing science fiction, you probably want to use Facebook rather than LinkedIn. But my books tend to be business-oriented books or technology-oriented books. So you just start networking with these people, reaching out. I kind of had to overcome being shy. Believe it or not, I used to be super shy. We could not have had this conversation a few years ago, because I'd have been, oh no, But if you want to promote your books or whatever you're going to promote, you have to get over the shyness. I'm still an introvert, but I'm not shy. So, I mean, I like being in my own space. That's introversion. and you have to get out there and virtually shake some hands and talk to people and build up a network, and then boldly ask, hey, you ever thought of writing a book? And usually you'll get, yeah, I thought about it, but I'm not going to do it. And you have to get used to rejection too. I don't want to do that. Why'd you ask me that? That's a stupid question. Okay, fine. Let's go on to the next one. You ever thought of writing a book? Well, I've been thinking about it. Talk to me about it. Okay. And you go through about, 50 people. You're going to get one person who says, yeah, I want to do that. And then of course the problem is, do they have the income to support it, and do they really want to do it? And the all important question, does their spouse want them to do it too? I tend to go for target individuals, so they always have to get the permission of the spouse, which is fine, and usually the spouse is fine because they're in a relationship. And that's the networking part is a big part. You could also do all kinds of other techniques. You can splatter out emails to everybody and spam the world. You get known by doing podcasts. You get known by really just getting out there and becoming a pretend extrovert. If you have to, shake some hands, get to know some people, tell somebody, I'm interested in finding people who want to write a book. If you know somebody, let me know. Just standard networking, but you got to do a lot of it.
Absolutely. So you were into the tech industry, VP twice, and as the director of computer operations at Traders Joe. So after so many years into that, why did you choose into this ghost writing and writing as such? What was it in this that attracted you? Why not something in the tech space which is exploding, exponentially at this particular point in time?
Well, it's interesting. I actually ghost wrote my first book, and it never was published. When I was 17, it was my grandfather. He was in the Philippines in World War II, and he was captured by the Japanese and spent the time in prisoner war camp. I took his journal and interviewed him and ghost wrote a book for him. And he kept it, but nobody ever saw it. But I had this idea of being a writer, but I had to make a living, and I had to raise a family, and I had to do all that stuff. So that got put aside, and I became a tech person. Well, when I reached my 50s, I realized I'm tired of tech, and what I'm really tired of is corporate. The politics of corporate, the straitjacket that you're in when you work in a company. You have to work with their rules and follow their stuff. I thought, I'm going to jump out and be a freelancer. I've got the income saved up that I can do that. I can basically not make any money for a few years, live off that kind of stuff. I call it a ramp, runway. And then just wanted to be a writer. So the first thing I did was write a bunch of books and try and sell them myself. And I realized that's not what I wanted to do. What I wanted to do was actually be a freelance writer and help other people write their books. And once I got into that, got some good customers, it was all over. I was like, I really like this. I wrote some books on things like the IoT, Internet of Things, AI and things like that. Wrote a couple fiction books, wrote a science fiction book for a rock star, all kinds of good stuff. And I was hooked because then I got to get out of my shell and actually meet people, which was a need that I had. If I'm writing for a living, I'm not meeting anybody. I'm closed in the space and there's nobody around me and I'm all alone. And that's fine for me normally, but it drove me a little bonkers not to at least talk to somebody once in a while. So in writing, ghostwriting, I get to talk to people and get out there virtually and so forth. I'm still sitting on my butt at home doing writing, but at least I'm getting out of the chair and talking to you and talking to other people. And it became very fulfilling. And as far as tech exploding, I'm making about double the income now that I made when I was in tech. And I'm pretty happy with that. It's tough. It is actually, in some ways, it's easier than being in tech because I'm running my own business. And you got all of the good stuff running your own business, but you got all the bad stuff too. Where's the money coming from next month? Like that question comes up once in a while because freelancing tends to be like this. You gotta make sure you got people. I learned very hard. You got to make sure you got what they call a pipeline. You got to have stuff coming in. Okay, you learn that lesson. Okay, and then you got to pay taxes. Oh my God, taxes! Forgot about that. Yeah, and then you got all these other things you got to do that were kind of taken care of for you when I was working for a corporate. But then on the good side, I don't have a boss telling me what to do. I don't have to do things their way. I formed this approach, I follow this approach. I modify it for clients here and there, but I'm working for a client, not for a boss. And the difference is like night and day. I'm the boss, the client and I are working together rather than the boss is telling me what to do and I'm doing it. It's very different and very much more fulfilling, because also when you're in tech, you're working to build something for other people. And when I'm working for me, I'm building stuff for me so that I can help other people in the way that I want to help.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I totally get it. That's the same feeling. I get it even in podcasting, that you are adding value to others, you are adding value to yourself. So it's a different feeling from being tied to a corporate position than to being the writing king that you are at the moment.
Yes. That's a great name, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's about, about freedom. It's about living the life that you want, in spite of all the issues, tax issues, many other issues that needs to be taken care of. Be that as it may, I'm sure a lot of people would like to learn more about you, from you, and also engage with you in a professional capacity. So what's the best way for them to do so, Richard?
Just go to thewritingking.com. So THE writingking.com, and go to the contact form that's on there and send me a message. It's pretty simple. Read through the website. I've got about 400 articles on how to write, if you want. And if you don't want to do that, just send me a contact and I'll be happy to get back to you.
Wonderful. Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you.